Everyone in Sacramento will not stop talking about how the city could potentially land the Oakland Athletics. And if that doesn't happen, well, maybe the city gets an expansion franchise. The question no one seems particularly interested in answering is, where would Sacramento place an MLB caliber stadium? For those of you shouting Railyards or Acro Arena Stadium Foundation, well, we'll get to those in a bit. There is reason to believe, though, that the answer may lie elsewhere, if there is even an answer at all. Every last stadium site in Sacramento has a few positives as well as a host of other issues that will need to be addressed. With that in mind, let's look at where Sacramento could potentially build an MLB stadium and the likelihood of each spot being selected in the unlikely event the city does nab a baseball franchise. Actually, before we do that, a quick disclaimer. I do not believe Sacramento is going to get a whiff of an expansion franchise from Major League Baseball, nor do I think Vivek Ranadive is going to buy the Oakland Athletics from John Fisher. This is a hypothetical exercise. Look, I know Sacramento could support a Major League Baseball team. I've talked about it before on this channel, but I just don't think we're getting one. That being said, it's still fun to muse about and chop it up over where Sacramento could build a Major League Baseball stadium, and quite frankly, there aren't a lot of videos where I get to drop local references on a wholesale level, so let's go crazy with it. And with that, we start at a location everyone in Sacramento knows all too well, the Railyards. Oh yes, the Railyards, where stadium projects in Sacramento go to die a slow death. The city has tried to make this a thing for years, decades even, and it just has never become the flourishing district politicians have hoped it would become. In fact, it's just mostly still dirt. On the plus side, there is more than enough land for an MLB level baseball stadium to get built, 30,000, 40,000 seats, whatever you want to do. And you'll find plenty of local politicians still championing this site as great for a stadium. There are some transportation advantages to this site, although we don't actually know how it would play out in real life. Everything's obviously a projection because nothing is built there. Beyond that, the Railyards is downtown adjacent. Of course, downtown adjacent is not in downtown Sacramento proper. To that end, the entire area needs more development, and that is something that hasn't happened after years and years and years and years of talk. As I've said several times already, it's just dirt. It's a mold of clay, you could say, but no one's ever bothered to actually mold it. There can be no denying the Railyards would be the favorite location for the city to build an MLB stadium, but it's far from a slam dunk. I put the odds of it happening here at 40%. If the Railyards enters as clubhouse leader, then West Sacramento would be a not too distant second place. Now look, let's take one option off the table right now. You cannot expand Rayleigh Field. You can't simply slap on an upper deck and call it a day. It's almost 25 years old and was built in less than a year. Anyone out there saying they could just double its capacity and be done with it has no idea what the hell they're talking about. As for ownership, Vivek Ranadive bought the stadium when he purchased the River Cats, and I believe that includes the parking lots to the south of Sutter Health Park. That is a decent size altogether. I also believe in addition to those parking lots, he could potentially buy the land adjacent to that by the river. Doing that would bump up the entire plot to 31 acres without needing to demolish Sutter Health Park in the short term. Once an MLB stadium would be finished on the other land, that could then be raised and developed into something else. Keeping Sutter Health Park up and running while building a stadium right next door would of course be the scenario should either Sacramento keep the A's or is granted an expansion franchise while the A's are waiting for wherever their stadium gets built somewhere else. The big issue here is that the land is located in West Sacramento, which is part of Yolo County and not Sacramento County. That creates a few different logistical challenges that are going to need to be overcome. When it comes time to negotiate a potential stadium deal, there are a lot of different things that may not get worked out between the two sides. I know Yolo County and Sacramento and the city of West Sacramento have worked on projects and have collaborated in the past, but this is, pun intended, a whole new ballgame. The location itself is not great. Look, I don't want to say the location of Sutter Health Park is bad, but there's not a lot happening around it. West Sacramento is not exactly a bastion for entertainment. I also have some major concerns with having 30,000, 40,000 people heading to this part of town as opposed to the 8 to 14,000 going to your average River Cats game. That's a lot of people to be cramming into this part of town on any given day. When I sit down and think about it, if the MLB stadium in Sacramento is going to be privately financed, either through Vivek Ranadive or partners or whatever the case may be, I would put the odds of the West Sacramento site at 80%. The land is in hand and it's pretty close to being shovel ready. The thing is though, I do not think Vivek Ranadive is going to pursue a 100% privately financed option. That means YOLO and Sacramento County will need to come together to work out some sort of joint financing arrangement. Look, I know the two sides did that when it came to getting Sutter Health Park built. But there is a huge difference between financing $46 million in 1999 and financing hundreds of millions of dollars in 2024. Assuming public financing is going to be needed to get any MLB stadium built in Sacramento, I put the odds of West Sac landing that facility at 25%. In just about the comment section of every story about the A's playing in Sacramento, someone has mentioned about how Acro Arena still has the foundations for a baseball stadium that never got built. And while true that did exist out in Natomas, I'm actually pretty sure that has been removed or will be removed. Cal North State is building a massive campus on the former arena land, which I assume includes removing that baseball foundation, whatever you want to call it. I mean, they tore down Acro Arena. I can't imagine them keeping that up for whatever reason. It could be possible for another stadium site to be found in Natomas, but the location is way too suburban and land out there is vanishing pretty quickly these days. I put the odds of Natomas being the site of any Sacramento baseball stadium at 2%. Elk Grove may seem like an outlandish suggestion to build a Major League Baseball stadium, but just hear me out here. We know the city has always wanted to make a splash for the longest time. It's always sort of looked for a way to put itself on the map and hasn't quite found that. There's also money out in Elk Grove, and a few notable companies do business. They have campuses or offices in Elk Grove, and of course the rest could be backfilled by those in Sacramento. It's not a huge drive from Sacramento to Elk Grove, although it is a drive. It should also be noted that infamous MLB agent Scott Boras grew up in Elk Grove. He's an Elk Grove guy, and if there's one thing we know about Boras, it's that he loves being extremely selfish and ruining things for everyone else. There would be nothing more selfish and more annoying than Sacramento's MLB stadium being out all the way in Elk Grove. But if the San Francisco 49ers were willing to build Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, I guess that means anything is truly possible. Especially should Boras get involved. In all honesty, this is fairly unrealistic, yet you can't rule it out. It's still within the realm of possibilities. Even if Elk Grove did want to build an MLB stadium, though, I don't necessarily know they could get it done. They could get that project over the line. I put the chances of this at 8%. For decades in Sacramento, the Pacific Coast League Sacramento Solons played down on the corner of Riverside Boulevard and Broadway at Edmonds Park. At one point in history, the stadium burned to the ground and was then rebuilt at the same location. The Solons would leave the capital in 1960 and the stadium was demolished in 1964. These days, a Target now sits on the site, although there are still some references to the stadium that was once there. Why not get rid of that Target though and bring back baseball to its spiritual home in Sacramento? Okay, honestly, it's way too residential. There's just way too much housing. There isn't enough transportation infrastructure there. It would be an absolute chaotic nightmare if you tried to jam a baseball stadium on that site. On second thought though, that plot of land is 9 acres. The same 9 acres the Oakland A's are planning to use to build this in Las Vegas. If that is possible on 9 acres, why not plop it right down on that Target on Riverside Boulevard and Broadway? Bring back Edmonds Field. I'm joking here. This is totally not going to happen, but I'm not ruling it out completely simply because it's a 9-acre plot of land. We'll give it 1/9%. At some point as I was writing my script and doing my research, I just wrote down Rancho Cordova. I don't know if there was a joke I had planned there, or I know I'm not referring to Rancho Cordova building a baseball stadium. That's never going to happen. So I don't know. I just wrote Rancho Cordova. So here it is. They ain't building a baseball stadium out in Rancho. They do have a Straw Hut Pizza. That's the only reason I go out to Rancho Cordova. But yeah, Rancho Cordova, MLB Stadium, 0%. Let's keep it moving. Cal Expo ticks a lot of boxes when it comes to being a site for a potential stadium, baseball or otherwise. It can handle a large volume of people because it is a fairgrounds, even if traffic surrounding the area is absolutely terrible. There is also room for development of things beyond a baseball stadium, should whoever be interested in that. The location is central enough within Sacramento to make it an easy destination for just about everyone. But most people's reaction, myself included, to hearing Cal Expo being mooted as a potential site for an MLB stadium in Sacramento is going to be, it's just not exciting. No one was excited when Cal Expo was mentioned as a potential home for a Kings arena. That certainly isn't going to change for baseball. There are certainly positives, but a few downsides to this as well. Namely, working with the Cal Expo group does mean you're going to need to build them a brand new exposition center and fairgrounds, which may be a deal breaker for some. You may also have to do away with the horse racing track on that site, and that's going to open up a whole new can of worms that I'm not sure anyone wants to get involved with. The thing about Cal Expo is that it could work. It could easily host a 40,000 seat MLB stadium without question. I just don't think anyone has the appetite to make it work. It's Cal Expo. I put the chances of this at 10%. Sunrise Mall is my dark horse in all of this hypothetical stadium chatter. I know a lot of you out there have immediately dismissed this and said that I am crazy. But again, just listen to me, because I think maybe it may make some sense here. Let's start with those cons, shall we? It's impossible to get to Sunrise Mall. It takes 20 minutes just to get to from any freeway in Sacramento, and there is no real public transit. I'm fully aware of all of that. I also know that there have been redevelopment plans in place for Sunrise Mall for some time now, but these have just never really gained any traction. Most of the work still seems to be in the design stage. Beyond that, the land is privately owned, meaning whoever wants the stadium will either need to buy the land or work with the developer as far as getting land to build a stadium, and then they will develop other stuff however they want that arrangement to work. That being said, given the current state of Sunrise Mall and its almost creepy level of quietness, I would think they would be motivated to work with a stadium partner. Here is why I, though, think Sunrise Mall could work for a baseball stadium. The site itself, it's a massive 100-acre plot. That means you have plenty of room to do whatever you want to do on that site, in addition to the baseball stadium. Additionally, when you look around Sunrise Mall, there's a lot surrounding the site itself. Obviously, you have Birdcage, there are the shopping centers across, and kitty corner from the mall itself. I would argue that there is more around the Sunrise Mall site, as far as shopping and retail and all of that is concerned, than they've ever managed to develop around the Golden One Center. With a little imagination, a lot of hard work, and probably some Herculean planning efforts, you could transform this part of Sacramento into something truly special, with a baseball stadium sort of being a cherry on top of all of that. It is incredibly unlikely that this site will even get considered. I know it's probably not going to get the time of day. It's a hypothetical underneath a hypothetical that no one wants to kick the tires on. It would need to clear a bevy of obstacles, even to get to the discussion stage. I just feel like, though, there may be something there at Sunrise Mall worth considering. I'm a realist, though. I know it's extremely unlikely. I'm going to put the odds at 5%. By the way, if you really want to make yourself depressed, go take a stroll inside Sunrise Mall these days. It is really sad to see just how much that place has fallen off a cliff. There are also other locations throughout Sacramento County, and I suppose Yolo County, Placer County, I mean, who really knows at this point, that could also host a Major League Baseball stadium. I would have given the field a 10% chance, but I allotted the Edmonds Stadium site a ninth of a percent, which means the field is going to get 9.1% here. Still a decent shout. I mean, you never know who's going to come out of the woodwork with a lot of land and a desire to get something built. So the field's in it. Thank you for just indulging me in this hypothetical exercise. Should Sacramento ever need a place to build a Major League Baseball stadium? Not that I think it's going to happen, but this was fun nonetheless. And don't forget to tell me where you would like to see a Sacramento baseball stadium built in the comments section below. If you'd like to know a little bit more about why I do believe Sacramento is an MLB ready city, and just take a little tour of baseball in Sacramento in general, video in the upper right hand corner of your screen is the place to go. Until next time, I am Cheyenne Hollis. This is the Touchback, and as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.